So religion. Is religion bad for society? Is it destructive? Well, obviously, the problem there is that people fail to understand what a religion is. Religion is just an ideology. It's just a worldview. And obviously you cannot live without a worldview. Secular or otherwise, right? So everybody has ideas about the world. And if the last century proved anything, it is that secular ideas about the world, secular ideas, can be every bit as destructive for society as religious ideas. And obviously religious ideas can be destructive. So ideas poison everything, is the reality of it. That's what Christopher Hitchens should have called his book. People have ideas, and people have always fought about ideas, and they always will fight about ideas. Ideas about how society should be structured, about how people in society should act. Everybody has ideas. And if you think you don't have ideas, it's because you have the mainstream ideas. You don't have the intelligence to you don't have the introspection to understand that you are really a lemming. Is the problem. And obviously throughout history, at all times, in all epochs, human beings have had terrible ideas. And you might think that the present day is something is an exception, but it isn't. In reality, of course, anyway, I'm not going to go into that unless I get banned. But the point is this: religious ideas. The only distinction between a religious ideology and a secular ideology is this, and that is that a religious ideology does not believe that in physicalism. It doesn't believe that subjective mental phenomenon is composed of objective physical phenomenon. Obviously correctly, because that is the objective truth, and I have a video on that if you want to know why. But that's the only difference, right? It's just an idea. It's just an ideology. Ideology is, of course, ideas that tend to go together. You can have multiple ideologies at the same time that can be both secular and religious. For instance, you can be a classical liberal, you can be a white nationalist, you can be a Christian, all at the same time. These ideas are not mutually exclusive, but there are some ideas that are mutually exclusive. Right? You cannot be a Catholic and a Muslim at the same time. So you have to judge each ideology on its own merits. You can't just say that, oh, this category of ideologies are bad, unless of course you refute the central premise of the ideologies, which, as I said, religious ideologies, the central premise there is that subjective mental phenomenon is composed of objective physical phenomenon. Obviously, if you prove that all religious ideologies are untrue, that would be legitimate. But obviously, I've proved the opposite, so it's not the case. Religions are in fact true. And any secular ideology that denies that is, of course, by definition false. So, Catholicism is very different from Protestantism, right? And Islam is very different from Nazism, and communism is very different from classical liberalism, which is very different from Hinduism, which is very different from Buddhism, which is very different from real Christianity. So you have to judge each ideology by its own merits, not only in terms of how destructive it is for society, but also in terms of, is it true or is it false, right? I mean, there are some ideologies where that's not even an issue, but for ideologies that deal with, you know, the existence of God, for instance, you know, it is certainly an issue. So that's the situation. You know, don't be one of these low IQ people who think that religion is somehow far worse than secular ideologies. There is no difference, really. The only distinction is that religions, you know, don't believe in physicalism. That is a distinction, and correctly so. Now, of course, there can be certain trends within religions and trends within secular ideologies that you don't like, but obviously nevertheless you have to judge each religion on its own merits.